First, I had heard of USAID's efforts at improving water resources in Jordan. I looked on their website to find out more about wastewater and wastewater infrastructure. From this webpage, I was able to learn about efforts related to building wastewater treatment facilities and the expansion of water networks, both of which are inherently spatial. From this, I became more curious to know what specifically was being done in Mafraq. So I did a simple Google search on Mafraq Water Jordan. And I found this very interesting article on this topic. Next, I wanted to find more general information on the topic of water and wastewater infrastructure and GIS, based on what I had learned about from the USAID Jordan website. And also, to give me some ideas on how other people have perhaps used GIS for this specific topic, even if it's not related to my specific case study of Mafraq Jordan. So I did a simple Google search on the terms water and wastewater infrastructure GIS. This led to several papers that can give me some ideas for my project. Now, this is an important point to make. Keep in mind that through your research, you can try to find examples of how other people have addressed your problem, but in a different context, and how you can then apply their ideas to your specific context. This is actually one of the most exciting aspects about doing research. Finally, because I do have some background experience working in GIS, and frankly, because I have no money to spend on buying datasets, I started to look for some ideas on how I can use free datasets for my project, study area, and spatial problems, and how those free datasets could be relevant specifically to my problem. Specifically, I looked into the possibilities of openstreetmap, which is a reliable, well-documented source of free data with worldwide coverage. So, on a hunch, I did a Google search of water and wastewater infrastructure openstreetmap. And sure enough, I found some topics related to water and sanitation in OpenStreetMap, and more specifically, I found a very interesting article on using OpenStreetMap data specifically for looking at wastewater discharge in relation to buildings. And I found this to be very relevant to an urban setting like Mafraq. So with all of this background research in mind, I decided that I'm going to do a GIS project to show me where water resources are located in the city of Mafraq Jordan. Specifically, I want to initially start with a basic project. And in my project, I want to show the locations of any water resources in Mafraq, such as streams, the locations of buildings, so I can begin to calculate potential wastewater discharges, and water networks, or the pipes that carry water to and from buildings and streams. Now, one place that I always begin to look for specific GIS datasets I can download and work with in my project is the Humanitarian Data Exchange. And I've provided a link to the Humanitarian Data Exchange in the video description below. One particularly nice aspect of the Humanitarian Data Exchange is that it provides OpenStreetMap data as downloadable shapefiles. And sure enough, some of the datasets I'm interested in are available to me on the Humana Data Exchange for Jordan. So after looking at Jordan, I click on the Geodata subset, and I download the OpenStreetMap dataset on Jordan waterways and the OpenStreetMap dataset on Jordan buildings. So far, so good. Now, with 2 of the 3 datasets I'm initially interested in my project already identified from a reliable source and at a scale and resolution sufficient for my needs, I think about how I can go about creating or finding a water network dataset. After doing some searching, I realized it'll likely to be impossible to find a water network dataset for Mafraq Jordan. These types of datasets are likely contained by government agencies and are simply not available to download for free. However, I see this as an opportunity to learn how to make my own water network dataset. And this is based on things I learned about when doing my background research that I talked previously in this video. Because I'm using ArcGIS Pro, I first initially find this research that looks promising. However, I'm just beginning my project, and this particular resource is a bit more than I need initially. So, I decided to create a simple line vector layer to represent a water network to get me started. And later, I can follow up on the more involved process of creating a water distribution utility network. Now, specifically, I remember when I was taking ArcGIS Pro training that when you create vector polyline features, polylines are stored with a direction, or the to and from of a line. In my case, I'll use direction of polylines to represent the direction that water flows in a water network, such as from a water source like a pumping station to a building, or from a building to a wastewater collection spot. And then I can also use a line arrow symbol. Adding a direction element to a polyline is also a great opportunity for me to learn a little bit more about GIS in general. So let me show you now a little bit about my project and what I was able to achieve. Because it's beyond the scope of this video to get into specific GIS techniques, what you see here is how I worked or created the datasets that were previously discussed. Specifically, I've downloaded and filtered the OpenStreetMap data for streams and buildings for Mafraq. And I created a few polylines and then used arrow symbols to show the direction of the flow of water. I also used the imagery and OpenStreetMap base maps of ArcGIS Pro to give me a little more context about the study area and identify possible data gaps. For example, unfortunately, the OpenStreetMap dataset did not contain that many buildings for Mafraq specifically. Therefore, I may later have to expand upon what was already provided by OpenStreetMap and digitize my own buildings. But even with what was provided, it gives me a start towards this project. And like I said previously in this video, the project will likely change as I do further work. Finally, I created this simple map to show the initial results of my project that can be used for making decisions about how to allocate water resources, fixed water utilities, or any other aspect of this problem that can be informed through mapping and GIS analysis. So in summary, this video showed you how to begin doing your own GIS project. An exciting thing about GIS is that it is specifically designed to solve spatial problems. Keep that perspective in mind as you begin to think about how to solve your own specific problems or make decisions that can be informed through GIS and mapping. Remember, always do a little bit of background research on your problem before you begin to invest your time and effort in downloading datasets or perhaps creating datasets. And Do research so you can work with new GIS tools and potentially avoid duplicating the efforts of others. I think you'll find that if you do even a little bit of background research, your overall project will be more interesting, meaningful, and have bigger impact on the problems you're trying to solve. And always keep in mind that data is going to be your biggest investment of time and energy in your GIS project. I've showed you a few examples of where you can begin to find data sets, but there are many, many more out there, and it will take time and practice to find data sets that are relevant and reliable for your project needs. And remember, look in the video comments below for links on where you can begin to start finding reliable GIS data sources for your project. I illustrated my approach to getting started with a GIS project using a case study on water resources in Mafraq Jordan. I showed you how I did a little bit of background research on my problem to inform datasets I could use, and how I managed the scope of the project and dealt with some data issues. Just remember, be flexible with your approach, but do see your GIS project as an opportunity to grow your skill set and discover new and exciting ways to harness the power of GIS for problem solving and decision making. Also, if you have any comments on getting started with a GIS project, please leave them as comments below. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, or please consider subscribing to this channel. Thanks so much for watching.